another topic that I want to talk about is Bitcoin at this moment, at the time of recording, is at, close to $18,000 a coin. And yeah, that's definitely not the best news. I definitely, like Bitcoin. I still think it's an interesting asset to invest in. It's still something that I'm currently still investing into. But yeah, 18,000 a coin is just crazy to me. Like I remember when I first, started buying it, which was at $22,000 a coin. So yes, I am in the negative on the Bitcoin investment. But yeah, like at the time it just seemed like a no-brainer, and I still think it was like a no-brainer at that point because I see a lot of capital going into it. I think it accomplishes something that not like there's nothing really else besides another crypto that can do it, which is actually distributing wealth to other people without a central authority in the middle. Like that alone is valuable, and the fact that Bitcoin accomplishes this, I believe, means that it should always have value. And that's my thesis, and the entire reason I really invest in, or not the entire reason, like there's obviously other factors too, but one of the big things is that the fact that it accomplishes that, to me, means there's a certain amount of value that will always be associated with it as the demand for that need increases. Like it just makes sense. Even now, I look at 18K Bitcoin as kind of a no brainer. But it's interesting that it got to that point to begin with. A big reason that I was buying it in the first place was because I almost saw it as a hedge. And I'm going to explain why this was a dumb line of thinking in a second, but I almost saw it as a hedge against inflation. Like in a huge inflation environment, I thought Bitcoin would soar as more people would want it because because Bitcoin itself is immune to inflation. Like there's only a certain amount of Bitcoin in existence, and that is like there's 21 million. And there will never be any more. So I thought during high periods of inflation that more and more people would seek it out as an asset. And I also thought that, when the markets went down, basically, like during, a bad period like this, that Bitcoin would soar. And the reason that, now I look at it, and, obviously hindsight's 2020, but I think that was obviously a dumb thought process, is because, Bitcoin was never meant to do any of that. Like it was never meant to be an inflation hedge. People use it as one now, and potentially in the future it could be that, but that was never the point. It was always meant to just be a currency between people. And the fact that it's even, being thought of as that is not good in my opinion, because that's not what it's supposed to be. And, also the way, I think one thing that I got wrong was that, I looked at it as something that would basically go up when the markets went down. And that's obviously, the wrong way to look at it, because that's not how it's associated at all. When the S&P goes up 1%, Bitcoin normally goes up around like 10%. Like it's definitely tied to the S&P. And a lot of people look at this as a bad thing. And if you only looked at this one year, you would also think it's a bad thing. But go to an inverse ETF, one that moves the opposite of the S&P, and look at it over the last 10, 15 years, and tell me if you would want your asset to move with the S&P or against it. Because I'd want to move it with the S&P. Because more often than not, the S&P reaches its all-time high. So, when I look at Bitcoin, yes, it's going to be down right now. It'll probably be down for quite a while. But, it's obviously a lot better to have that than the alternative. Like, it's almost something that we should be thankful for, that it goes down when the market goes down and up when the market goes up normally. So, yeah, I still believe in the asset quite a bit, but like seeing 18K Bitcoin is definitely not ideal, but I still think it's a good asset over the long term. And I'm still going to buy it because there's only so many Bitcoin. And I think what it accomplishes means that it'll always have value And I think that value will always increase because I do believe the demand for that particular task will always increase as well. And that's my whole really strategy with Bitcoin.